Black representation or just pushing an agenda? That's the question that has been on my mind with the recent trailer releases of some peculiar movies. But such a question has been around even before recent times, maybe asked in another way. Okay, to be specific, this video will be centered around animation, mainly. Now, as a Nigerian growing up, I never really cared about the idea of seeing Western cartoons or TV shows with characters that looked like me. In fact, as a kid, I had this notion that cartoon characters with human features always had one way of looking, which shows, movies, and merchandise that I grew up with, like Ben 10 and Barbie franchise, literally cementing that idea. It was until watching Pocahontas that I got to understand that there are different ways these characters can look. Not necessarily understanding the concept of race, but at least making me acknowledge that fact. And yes, I do know Pocahontas is Native American, but to me as a kid, all I saw was a character that I could relate to in a sense. Now, as time passed, we've seen the notion of diversity in TV become more mainstream, with animation studios open to building more diverse worlds, ultimately with a wide array of diverse characters. Characters that might not only appease the natural niche of these companies, but also reach out, or let me say, inspire a different community. Now, to bring it closer to the question, shows like Boondocks that though satirize American culture, were still able to discuss topics like social classes and stereotypes, more relatable to a Black American community, but able to appease a wider and broader audience who might not find it relatable but may be funny. Such shows, similar to Boondocks, show Black characters with their own peculiar environments, ideas, and beliefs that make it even more immersive. Or let's take into the Spiderverse, which took the world by storm when it was released. It's a standout take on the whole Spider-Man universe, to which it boasts a Black main character. Note that this movie was an adaptation of the comics, and it was adapted pretty well, with audiences raving not just about the animation, but also the pacing that came to building the stories of these characters. Well, I guess you know where I'm going with all of this. When you create peculiar stories and environments that revolve around strong Black characters, you give audiences a new feel which appears authentic and real. But if you take an already established story with a fan base that has literally grown up with the characters, and you take these characters and give them a whole 360, then question starts flying. Is this Black representation, or is it something else? To draw it close to the thumbnail, let's start with Shaggy or Norville from the show Velma. Personally, I grew up on Scooby-Doo, so I pretty much know how Shaggy is supposed to look. Now, for what it's worth, this is not a corporate idea, but more of a creative idea by the creators of the show. It literally racially depicts the voice actors on their characters. This ultimately makes for a more racially diverse show. In all honesty, I'm all for that. But why build on an already established show if there was going to be such a drastic change? Why not create a group of characters within the Mystery Inc. world that you can build on, which makes for a more authentic experience? But I am just grabbing at straws here. By the way, I'm not really going to speak about TMNT. You could go watch my reaction to the trailer to see my approach to it. Now, moving on to Disney. Disney has always been one that held up the racial depiction of its characters when it comes to these live-action adaptations, with Aladdin and Mulan at least doing a decent job when approaching this. And let's not forget the other live-action remakes which also do a decent job when approaching this too. Disney has always held up to that standard. After all, these are characters that were made by them or have been adapted by them. So, with the release of these trailers, it looks like they've switched up on their own undefined policy. Now with Peter Pan, we've seen a live action remake, so this might be a way for them to liven things up, or it might also be a way to include a different community in Disney's fairy tale lineup. Unlike Velma, which I think is more of a creative decision, these two movies I feel is more of a corporate decision. By switching two integral characters in two of their movie lineups, Disney probably knew there would be backlash and they still went on with it. That I praise them for. But the question is this Black representation or just pushing an agenda? Well, it's the way you want to look at it. This, in all honesty, is a way of including the Black community in their all wonderful world. But it's not the best way to go about it. By doing this, it might just look like they are pushing an agenda like a lot of movie production companies are doing lately, rather than creating something unique. One might argue, if you want to give light to a younger Black audience, why not adapt the Princess and the Frog movie or create a new Black princess? Now, the thing is, I am Nigerian, and and I might not have a full grasp on racial discrimination or any of its issues. But to me, black representation should be unique, it should stand out, it should not play into what it isn't, but make people appreciate it for what it is, not give way for people to criticize it and give it terms because it was not done right. Disney and other companies know this. If they want to build something, they need to start from the bottom, not build on what was. So while I might feel like this is a way of black representation, Norville and April included, one might still say this begs the question of pushing an agenda because of how it was being done. Lastly, no one deserves hate. If you go about to spread it because of how you feel about a movie's casting, you are creating strife in a world that does not need it. I'm not saying don't make your voice known, but don't go about to cause people pain or bully people because of how you feel. At the end of the day, the truth is what you put into the world is what the world will give you back. So that's the end of the video. The video was genuinely hard for me to write because I had to dilute some of the points I was making, you know, because of YouTube and all that. Like I said, I am pretty Nigerian, so my opinion does not necessarily answer the question that I raised, but I still give it a good go. I think I've said this before, I don't want this channel to be one note. So sometimes if you're following this channel, be expecting such unorthodox videos, I guess. Thank you so much for 700 subscribers. Please feel free to add or object to any of the points I made, or even answer the question yourself, but just be civil about it. Like and subscribe if you loved what you watched. Thanks for watching. God loves you and I love you too. Bye bye.